Now we're going to the hydroponics lab. Notice where the lab is located on the Ishimura, highlighted in red on the top of the ship. Here we will be dealing with whatever's poisoning the ship's air, and investigating what one crew member dubbed Leviathan. I don't know what the Leviathan is, but I'm hoping it's very small.
Hydroponics log, Dr. Elizabeth Cross reporting.
Elizabeth!
I'm pleased to say that we're working close to maximum capacity at the present time. All flora is healthy and thriving, and food yield has created a surplus. I was going to pass the surplus on to the colony, but the captain has given a no-fly order. I want to note my opposition to that order. Everyone knows they're in trouble down there, and I don't see what denying them our surplus will achieve.
That was Elizabeth Cross. The woman Jacob Temple came to hydroponics to rescue, according to the last audio log we found of his on the bridge. Elizabeth and Jacob have two different surnames, so they're either not married, or by this time in the future, spouses no longer share the same name. It's interesting to me that both Jacob Temple and Elizabeth Cross have surnames which relate to religion. Jacob Temple seems to relate to Judaism, as Jacob is a character in the Old Testament, which in Hebrew is pronounced Israel. So Jacob Temple seems to be symbolic of the Temple of Israel, or the Jewish religion. Elizabeth Cross, however, seems to be named after the Christian crucifix, and Elizabeth, mother of John the Baptist, as identified in the Christian New Testament. So Elizabeth Cross is the religion born of Elizabeth. What the designers of Dead Space may have been attempting to say with these two characters, I do not know. Maybe we'll be able to figure it out later on.
Watering cycle initiated.
Oh, hi, Hammond.
Isaac. Good to see you in one piece. Don't take your helmet off. The air's rotten. I gotta look at it. It's huge. You won't believe it. Shut itself in food storage. Crew that was on this deck, I think they're what's poisoning the air.
Well, that's very unprofessional of them.
They've been transformed. I saw one of them. Bloated, swollen.
A real fat ass.
They're like poison factories. We need to take them out where we can still breathe.
Hammond! I thought you were dead. You need to get to cleaner air. You're not going to be able to help Isaac in your condition. Isaac, I'm scanning the area now. He's right, there's something really big in food storage. But I can't get a good scan. Monitor readings are off the scale. Be careful.
Hold tight, Hammond. I'll save us all. Again.
That's the door to food storage. But I can't override the integrity lockdown. You have to destroy the pods to bring the air quality up. Then you can go through and use the poison on the Leviathan. I suppose I should be glad that Ham's alive, but I still don't trust him. I think he's hiding something about the marker.
Hydroponics is a method of agriculture which does not use soil to supply plants with nutrients. Instead, the roots of the plant are dipped into water, which has all the necessary nutrients floating around in it. Hydroponics are a popular method of raising vegetables and fish simultaneously on a small scale in home greenhouses. However, the water requires constant circulation, and usually store-bought nutrients and fish food, and so it is not entirely energy and resource independent. The CEC has decided to use hydroponics here on the Ishimura simultaneously for food production, as well as the conversion of carbon dioxide into breathable oxygen. I presume many of the nutrients in the water from which the plants drink is extracted from the sewage of the ship's restrooms, or as conservationists would call it, humanure. Astronauts today drink the water filtered or distilled out of their own urine, so it would stand to reason that in 500 years, deep space miners would have found as many uses as possible for their own excrement. It is unclear whether the hydroponics lab on board the Ishimura takes advantage of the nutrient-rich water to raise fish as well as fruits and vegetables, but they no doubt have some form of protein source. It's entirely possible that this far in the future they have determined that it makes more sense to live on an entirely vegetarian diet and have either engineered or selectively bred plants to provide the human body with all the necessary proteins and fats to live a perfectly nutritious and healthy lifestyle. The safety precautions needed to run a hydroponics lab on board a spaceship must be very advanced and well thought out. As you may have observed on the tram at the beginning of the chapter, the map of the Ishimura indicated that the hydroponics lab is located at the very top of the ship. This is a surprise to me. Placing a greenhouse at the top of a building on Earth makes sense, as that's the part of the building that can capture the most sunlight. However, on a spaceship where artificial sunlight is used to energize your garden, it would make more sense to me, anyway, to place the hydroponics lab near the bottom of the ship, especially if you're using it for atmosphere processing. The reason is that carbon dioxide is heavier than oxygen, and if the ship's air circulation system should fail, then the carbon dioxide would naturally fall toward the direction of the artificial gravity plates and displace the oxygen upward. This would cause the atmosphere processing function of hydroponics to continue passively without mechanical air circulation. Furthermore, if nutrients in the plant's water were indeed partially derived from the ship's sewer system, a hydroponics lab near the bottom of the ship would indeed be aided by the direction of flow, pre-oriented by the crew's flushes. This is not to say that there are no good reasons to place the hydroponics lab at the top of the ship. For instance, the mining functions of the Ishimura appear to be exclusively on the bottom of the ship, which makes a lot of sense as the ship is designed to lift chunks out of planets from below. Furthermore, after a chunk of the planet is pulled into orbit, debris has the potential to continue upward, endangering the bottom of the ship by the potential for impacts from newly created asteroids. Just like nature designs mammals so that the most vital organs are behind a cage or shell of bone, it makes equal amounts of sense for the ship's equivalent of lungs to be as far from the most likely risk of damage as possible. Another consideration one might make when designing a hydroponics lab for a spaceship outfitted with artificial gravity is the means by which the water supply retains water when the artificial gravity fails. Think about this. If the roots of these plants are dipped freely into containers of water, then there must be an opening for the roots to enter. But should the artificial gravity fail, then there is suddenly a risk that the water in this hydroponics lab will begin escaping into the air and colliding with the walls and seeping into the equipment. Therefore, I would expect the equipment at the hydroponics lab to be watertight. We already know the room itself is likely watertight, as it seems every time the hull is breached, the rooms affected are automatically sealed off to prevent the leakage of air from the rest of the ship. Another safety precaution they might use to prevent water from escaping into the air in a zero-gravity situation is if there is some kind of sponge-like barrier between the plant and the water, through which roots can penetrate, but through which water cannot leak easily in a zero-gravity environment. So this must be what's poisoning the air. Okay, now we'll just kill a few more of those and we'll be back on Easy Street. Come on, you little bastards, I hear ya. babies? God! Didn't expect a deep space mining vessel to be carrying so many, well, miners, honestly. Sorry, pal. I know it seems like a harsh punishment for bad breath, but it hurts me more than it hurts you. Sir, settle down. We only carry fruits and veggies here. You'll have to go somewhere else for pork and ice cream. Now let's take a trip up the elevator. As we ascend the elevator shaft, we will see that this room is very large, and the walls are lined with plants. The chlorophyll inside these plants removes carbon from the carbon dioxide in the air, replenishing the Ishimura's breathable air supply. Then, of course, the human crew inhales the oxygen and replaces it with carbon dioxide, and the whole process starts all over again. There are 2 rooms like this in the atmosphere processing deck, but even with this much plant life, I doubt it would be enough to convert the CO2 inhaled from 1,000 crew members with sufficient oxygen to keep those crew members alive. That is, of course, with today's selection of plant life. It is entirely possible that in the future, man will engineer varieties of plants and bacteria which replenish far more oxygen per cell than is possible today, so I won't claim that the implications made by the script and level design of this game are impossible. Not the fastest elevator in the universe, I know, but do you really expect a bunch of gardeners to be impatient?
Isaac, make us whole again.
I heard you the first time, Nicole, and it's just as creepy now as it was then. Alright, that's the last air poisoner thing for this video. We'll kill some more next time. See you then, but don't hold your breath.